Hey everyone, and welcome to Life Happens, Let's Fix It. Today we're going to be turning this fence into a gate. So come along and let's get started. So a friend of mine called me and was getting some estimates to turn this fixed section of fence on the left into a gate. And after we got talking about it, we decided we could tackle it ourselves. So we got together on a Saturday morning, and that was our goal for the day. Additionally, we did not want to deal with any of the fence posts, the 4x4 posts. We didn't want to remove any of the existing ones, and we also didn't want to have to dig any new holes in this South Carolina clay. So our plan was to cut the fence strategically on this left side here and put in a latch. And so we would figure out where to cut the fence, not exactly where I'm pointing. We changed our mind, but we'll actually cut it right next to the post. And the latch will go on this side, and then on the other side, of course, is where the hinges will be. And again, we'll cut the fence right here next to the post. And the plan is to use this post to put the hinges on. And the main issue we have to deal with is the gate has to open this way towards the inside of the fence. And so it's going to be a little tricky to get the hinges on here because the post is sticking out this way. Typically you would put the hinge on the other side, but we'll make it work and we'll show you how we did it. As far as materials needed for this project, we picked up a couple of latches and a variety of hinges and pressure treated lumber and fence board, and these are the hinges we ended up actually using, and these actually match the hinges on the smaller gate that was already there. So what we'll do is mount those like that. We'll build up the inside of the gate to bring out a mounting surface flush with the 4x4 post. The first step was to, again, add some pressure treated 2x4s to build out this side of the fence so that we had a flush mounting surface for the hinges. So we're going to put a hinge at the top, one at the bottom, and again we put our new pressure treated 2x4 over the existing one here, just so we had plenty of wood to screw into. So we do need some good support here. So what I'm doing is just putting in some 2-inch decking screws. So they're going all the way through the 2x4, through the fence vertical member, and then into that supporting 2x4. And then when I'm done with this first layer, actually I'm going to put a second 2x4. In our case, 2 of the 2x4s were just about right to equal, bring us out flush with the 4x4. You might have to do yours slightly different. That's going to sticking out a little bit. Once we cut it loose, it'll fold back, so I think we're good. Alright, so at this point the hinge is not flush, the hinge mount, so we're going to go ahead and get the screws started. Then we can pull the pin out, and then we'll be able to tighten this guy down, and then everything will be aligned for when we after we cut the fence loose. The screws for the hinges are quite large, so we are going to pre-drill for those so we don't split the wood. And in a lot of this fencing material, with any of the screws, you need to be careful and think about when you need to pre-drill. The decking screws we're using in a lot of the places do kind of drill out a hole as they go, but on some of the thinner, narrower pieces we pre-drilled. But for these lag bolts, they were 3/8 or 1/4 inch, I'm not sure exactly, but we kind of did a test practice drill on these scrap pieces and determined that we needed a 1/4 inch hole. So we pre-drilled all these hinge bolts for 1/4 inch. And like I say, we get them in tightened, almost tight, but not all the way. And then what we'll do, as I mentioned earlier, we'll pull that hinge pin out, and then we'll be able to tighten them down all the way. And then once we cut the fence loose, everything should be lined up perfectly. All right, so next we're going to get our bolt lined up here. We'll drill a hole into the 4x4 and get this mounted again, all before we cut the fence loose. That way everything will be lined up for us when we put it back together. That's going to split. All right, so we got a 1/2 inch bolt on the latch, and so we drilled a 3/4 inch hole just so we wouldn't have to worry about getting the angle exactly right. And we ended up having to drill pretty much all the way through the post, because if you notice how this thing works, there's a little catch right here. It slides in this groove, so the bolt has to go that much farther into the hole in order to make the latch work, like that. So that, based upon where we had to bolt the latch to, pretty much, like I said, the hole's almost all the way through that 4x4. Now we're going to pre-drill for these bolts here. They're pretty heavy screws, actually. Pretty heavy duty screws, and this is a really thin board, so we're going to pre-drill so we don't split that wood. So I'll back this guy out, pre-drill the hole, and then we'll put the four screws in. So the latch is still pretty tight right now, but once we cut the fence loose, we do a little bit of adjustment to make it easier to open and close. So now we got our hinges slightly tightened, so we're going to knock the pin out so we can tighten those down the rest of the way. And this one will be tricky. We didn't get good footage here, but basically this is me cutting the right hand side, and basically we just cut through the top, middle, and bottom boards. All right, so we're ready to cut the gate on this side. This particular fence has the staggered boards, and so this board's actually covering up where we need to cut it. So we're going to sacrifice this one board, and we had enough forethought to buy 4 extra boards, so we'll just replace that. This is the same process we used on the other side where I lost the footage, but we're just set our saw to the depth of the 2x4 that goes horizontally, and we just eyeballed it with a straight edge and marked it flush with the 4x4, and this is where we're cutting the fence loose. For the bottom, we've got our trusty sawzall, or reciprocating saw as some people refer to it.
Reciprocating saw, that's correct.
Here we had to create a little clearance where the gate would not clear that 4x4, so we had just traced this out ahead of time and just trimming off a little bit here on the bottom. Also, off camera, we did trim about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch off of the bottom of the fence so that it would open smoothly, whereas before it was in contact with the ground. And we also, now that we got the gate down, we can get our little 90-degree angle brackets here just to give a little bit more support on this piece of 2x4 that we have sticking up about 3 inches. So we went ahead and put 2 of these on each of the support blocks. Alright, so to lay out our diagonal brace, I've just laid it on top where it needs to be, and I'm just using a straight edge to draw a parallel line here so we'll know where to cut that one. We'll cut this one first, then line it back up and cut the other one exactly where it needs to be.
If you're interested, John works for a Chick-fil-A breakfast and a Five Guys lunch. It's pretty cheap.
So I've helped my friend out on a couple projects now, and the agreement we have is that I come and help him out and he takes me out to lunch as payment. So on this job I was extremely fortunate to get 2 meals out of him, so it was a win-win for both of us. So now we're going to screw the brace in. We're just going to put, I think I'm going to put 4 screws in the first board and the end board, and then 2 along the way. And that'll go a long way to keeping it from sagging. Now we're just doing a little prettying up. We took a piece of the extra fencing paneling that we had and split it down the middle, and we'll put half on each side, basically just to fill in the broken pieces. Right, so we just repeated the same process for the bottom diagonal brace, and since our hinge and latch were put in before, everything went right into place. It did take a little bit of effort to get the hinge pins in, but other than that, everything was good. And here we're doing the same thing we did on the latch side, just adding a piece of fencing that we've cut in half down the middle and putting half on the gate and half on the remaining section of fixed fence.